Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey there, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We are back again, and we're talking about being in the right room, what that means and how that can change everything in your business.
Yes. So first of all, we are the company that we keep. Right. And so if we're constantly being around the same old people with the same aspirations, we kind of collectively put a ball around each other in this like limitation. So those that want to expand should be breaking out of their normal rooms and getting into the right rooms and bigger rooms that are going to be able to move their business forward.
You know, I had a recent Instagram, our favorite news feed, and there was something that came on there. It talked about how just being in the same room with somebody who was super productive made you by default 15% more productive. And being in a room with someone who's less productive makes you by default 30% less productive. So I think that right there is so indicative of what it is to be in the right rooms, because if you're in a room with people who are not as ambitious, who are not trying to do more, who are trying to be less, it makes you less just by default. Just being in their presence makes you less productive. So I think that really says everything you need to hear about what it is to grow and be in the right business and be in the right rooms. Because if you're in the wrong room, you're becoming dumber, you're becoming slower, you're becoming less productive just by being in that atmosphere, whether you know it or not, whether you think that you're doing it or not. It's instinctive that your body consciously or subconsciously draws you into that mode of productivity. So who you surround yourself with is a huge deal.
So important.
Huge.
While you're talking, all I can think about is when my ex would go and supervise one of our guys who was super negative in our alarm business. He was a great technician, super negative. And my ex is not a negative person. He is critical in thinking, but he would always come back so grumpy and so negative. And it's just like, it rubs off on you. So being around the right people, Amanda and I have had these conversations a ton of times over the years, even how we show up for each other and making sure that we're amplifying each other versus holding each other back. I heard this quote earlier is that the who you know often trumps what you know. It really sat with me. I'm going to repeat that. Who you know often trumps what you know. And it's so true. If you're in the right rooms, then you have the ability to network with the people who, or get rubbed off on, with the people who can potentially open up doors for you, who give you a different perspective or a different way to look at things, who just embody what you want and what you want to be. And this in itself can pay off in dividends.
Well, think about if you go to a big event or like a big expo or a big conference and you're in front of all these inspiring people who are at the scalability level that you want to be, like they're exactly where you want to be, or they're doing beyond what you want or what we thought about. And you come out of those experiences so pumped and so like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. That's what we're talking about. It's that feeling that I can do more, I can be better, I can achieve more. It's the inspiration. And I've been guilty of it, of like poo-pooing those scenarios like, oh, well, I don't really need to be in this motivational speaker room in order to feel motivated. And that's true. However, it's the energy and the drive of those other people that's driving you forward. Again, it's that concept of just being in the room with them makes you more productive. It makes you more energized. So even if you're not having one-to-one conversations, just being in the room will push you there. And if you think about that, we are the 5 people that we hang out with most. So I'm going to exclude our children, we'll exclude them, but the adults that you hang with, them too. But for the purpose of this podcast, We'll say the 5 adults that you hang out with, that's who you are. So if you don't like where any of them are in their jobs, in their relationships, in their whatever, then you might need to think about expanding beyond that. Because, for example, if you are in a room, everybody's married and everybody has been cheated on, and you're wondering if your spouse is cheating, maybe it's the room. Maybe it's that everybody's okay with it and everybody's moved on from that and that it's part of the room. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying that if that's not something that you want to see, if that's not what you want to be around, then you need to change your room. And if you're looking at getting into these bigger spaces, if you have big growth that you want to see in your business, if you have an extra comma you want to add to your bank account, then you need to get in the rooms where that is the outcome of somebody's random Tuesday.
Yeah, you should not always be the big fish. Oh God, no. Yeah. At all. You should be the little fish, the smallest fish. There are times, especially when you are the big fish in your community, obviously you're the leader, you're this or you're that. And this is something that I can remember having many conversations around when I left Hawaii. It's just like, I felt, even though I was traveling and putting myself into different rooms, and not that I didn't love people, but I had a certain level of success and drive that was being capped almost from the environment in which I lived in. And it wasn't just the people, it was the environment, it was the circumstances. There was lots of different things around that. So yeah, it's kind of like you don't always want to be the best house on the block. It devalues your value. A couple other things besides inspiration, it also can be built in accountability, because then all of a sudden you're talking a big game around these big important people, and like you're going to want to step up and kind of keep your word. And some of them might take you under their wing. Also, success leaves clues. There are clues that you can pick up on. There are little nuggets that you can take to be able to really expedite your journey, save time, save effort on your journey towards that next level, whatever that is. We're talking about business, but this could be in healing. This could be in emotional intelligence. This could be in the way that you are. This could be a mindset. There's so many different facets to this, not just in success with business.
Absolutely. Getting out of that comfort zone is so important, because you can't be the big fish all the time. And if you are in the small pool. You're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong room. You know, like you said, both of us lived on islands. So you really can only get so big living on an island in the most isolated archipelago in the world. And if you're a big fish there, you do kind of get capped, and there's nothing wrong. We both loved living in that area. However, it gets to that place where you're not growing the way you need to grow for your family, for your friends, for your career. And it means getting into other rooms, and maybe it's a virtual space. It doesn't have to necessarily be a physical room, and maybe it's a virtual space. Maybe it's somebody will take you under their wing. Maybe somebody will challenge what you think is the best you can do. It's impressive sometimes to bounce ideas off some people. Like if you get in a group of people, some people will say, there's no way you'll hit that goal. Like, oh, it's too lofty. It's too much of a thing. You can't do that. And you have that same conversation in a different room, and they're like, oh, that's really not enough. Like, is that all? I mean, what's the next step that you're going to do beyond that? And like, once you take over the world, okay, well, like, what about the universe? There's always going to be rooms where your biggest idea is too big for some people, and other rooms where that your biggest idea is a tiny idea to everybody else. And so if you're looking for growth and you're looking for change and you're looking for something new, I'd rather be that small, tiny fish in the huge ocean of other ideas than be the big fish in the little pond. It's super uncomfortable, particularly for someone who's an introvert. It sucks. It sucks. And that's where growth happens.
Yeah. So let's talk about how to act when you're around these people. So you don't want to go and just take. You really want to show up with 2 ears, 1 mouth, and use them
accordingly.
Yeah. And think of yourself with 4 ears and 1 mouth, because you really want to listen. You want to watch with all of your senses of the individuals. You really want to hear their learned experiences, not just the success point, but their learned experiences, because this is where the nuggets, those clues are. Seeing if there's maybe some connectivity that can happen. Business happens through people. Opportunity happens through people. 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen. The next thing would be dress the part. So this is also getting into the rooms. Like, you know, you've heard the phrase, I'm sure, of like dressing the part that you want to be. This is also true in the rooms. So you want to put yourself in the room that you want to be in. So you want to be that particular level of success, but also the way you appear and the way you engage and act is super important. So if you know that you're going to a room full of, you know, movers and shakers that are the big fish that you admire, that you look up to, maybe you need to take a look at like what you're wearing that day, making sure that you're dressing for the part that you want to be and not dressing for the part that you're in.
And I know that has some controversy around that, because why can't I be just who I am and everything will work out? Well, that's great, but just be the best part of who you are, not the schleppy on the Sunday with your hair in a mom bun and, you know, no makeup and pajamas you've worn for the last 3 days. Wear the nice things that you have and be the best part of you. It puts that first impression. You want to be known and be liked and be appreciated for exactly who you are, but you can still be you.
Well, I'm not saying go buy Louis Vuitton
of course not.
And like network with people, but we're an executive business club. And I thought about what I was going to wear today because of the people and the environment that we're in versus at even my conference that I've been doing the 5 conferences this past March. I definitely made a different choice based on the environment in which I was going. It's still me. It's still what I love, and I'm so comfortable, which it's not always comfortable, but I'm making a choice that is conducive to the environment. So that way I can feel more confident in my skin. If I'm approached, I feel like it's a bit more respectful too, not just to others, but to myself. And so kind of keeping that in mind as well. Another thing is that you don't want to ask for favors. Like, you want to make sure that you are listening and waiting for opportunity, asking them questions, being able to create dialogue. Tell me more about that. What was one thing you wish you would have told your 10-year-old self or 15-year-old self or whatever context you're in? Just make sure that you can ask, actively listen, and ask open-ended or powerful questions to these individuals. You don't want to feel like you're wasting their time. So don't just be a newscaster or an interviewer. You want to make sure that it's engaging and dynamic, and know when to walk away, I guess, would be the other aspect of that, which I was going to come to, because some people just don't want to engage with you, and that's okay. Make sure that you can show up and have an intelligent conversation. Talk about other topics than what you talk about in your normal rooms, because a lot of times they're not talking about the same stuff.
Which is a good thing, which is why you're in that room all together. We want to be talking about different things. We want to maximize our reach and our time as well, because if you're in that room, it might not be a room that you're always in. It might be a new experience. So, one thing I know we always talk about, giving space for processing after the fact. So if you are going to a brand new room and you're really excited, and this is the room that you hope one day to be a keynote speaker in, etc., then maybe give yourself a little bit of time after the fact to process that, to make connections, to do follow-ups if you have the opportunity, to write down what you learned and to implement whenever you can. Because if there's any way to implement anything you learn in those rooms immediately, that's what you want to do. Implementation, and the speed at which you have that implementation is going to drive your business further than just absorbing the information slowly over the course of weeks and weeks and then forgetting half of what you learned.
Absolutely. A lot of times at least in the next level, I think I'm trying to not base it on if I were to put myself in the next level, because Amanda and I have accomplished a lot. We've been in many different rooms, depending on what level of room that you're in. A lot of times you might walk away with one particular coffee connection and say, hey, I'd love to have coffee. I'd love to be able to pick your brain more. A lot of times people with great success, they like to talk about what they've done. And sometimes they can be a little bit of a mentor, but a lot of them are pretty rigid in the way that they hold their time and their space and their commitment. But if you connect with them, and I'm thinking of a particular event that I went to a few years ago, pitching event for founders and startups. And there were a lot of VCs there, venture capitalists. And I remember meeting a couple of very high level, very successful individuals and wanting to further the conversation. What I realized is one of them, yes, absolutely, was yeah, let's have coffee, let's have lunch, let's this or that. But the other ones took a little bit longer. They wanted to see that I wasn't just in there to take. They wanted to see that I was serious about it, because anybody can talk a good game. Anybody. And so I started to see them on my social media. I started following their social media. And after a few events in about 6 months, then they were coming up to me. They were having different conversations with me versus me going up to them. We were having coffee together. And so it's a longer game. Typically, it's not like a typical networking event where you're just going to go in and kind of blast it. You really are, for these individuals who are usually a step above or a couple steps above you, usually it's a bit longer of a game. So just kind of keep that in mind. And they have success because they're putting in the actions most likely. And so that means that their calendars, their availability, their capacity might be a little bit thinner than what someone else's might be. And so just kind of keeping that in mind and knowing that it's this nurturing long game and constantly showing up in that room or in that environment where they start to see you, start to notice you.
It is a long game, because your business and your life is a long game. It's not instant gratification all the time. When that happens, that's amazing. And yay, instant gratification. And it is a long game. And you have to put in the work to see the results. And sometimes that work takes longer than you anticipated, but it makes it more worth it when it comes to fruition.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would say about this is be confident, but don't be cocky. There is a difference. It's interesting because I've had this conversation with myself a few times, the difference between confidence and cocky, because you want to put on like, this is who I am. This is what I've accomplished. But if you're little fish now in a big room, not saying that you should be cocky other places, but there's a certain humility, but also confidence that you need to have around them, because otherwise they're not going to give you a second look. Really making sure that you have your mindset and your attitude in check. And that I think goes back to the 2 ears, one mouth, understanding that it's a long game and that you're really trying to like just create dialogue with them. So just kind of keeping that in mind, and also be prepared to answer some questions about yourself, being confident in what you've accomplished, but also be open that there's still growth, right? There's still a lot of growth that can happen. Yeah.
And honestly, the best part about being in these bigger rooms is that it changes you. It changes the way you see your own accomplishments, the way you see your growth potential, the way you see your next steps, your strategy. There's a lot that can be gained simply from observing and listening when you're in these big rooms. And that's what we want for everyone. We want you to get in those bigger rooms that are going to challenge where you are and challenge who you are and what you feel like you can accomplish with the rest of your life.
Absolutely. All right. I think we're at time. I know we can go on and on about this one, but if there's anything that you feel we need to add to this podcast, drop it in the comments below. And we'd love to hear about an experience of you putting yourself out of your comfort zone and being a little fish in a big pond to expand your capacity and your knowledge and your opportunity.
Make sure you are subscribing to our YouTube and connecting with us here or on social media. We want to hear from you. And until next time,
get after it.
All right, everyone, it's not enough to just listen.
now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.